Hey guys, Silver Underworld here. This story was submitted by WillowTheSchizo. It's called Joyland, Amusement for Evil. WillowTheSchizo has also provided video footage that he captured during that night with his friends, Brendan, Tim, Wayne, and Willow. I'll put all of his links down in the descriptions below. This is an alleged true story. Joyland, heart of entertainment in Wichita, Kansas. The only amusement park in this part of Kansas, closing down in 2004. The amusement this park once brought to the people of Kansas soon became a nightmare. Between the overrun of homeless, drug addicts, criminals, and Satanists, Joyland quickly became a nightmare of skinwalkers and spirits of park goers who lost their lives on the many mishaps of the rides. With this information, Brendan, Tim, Wayne, and Willow pull up to the parking lot of the school in the back of the only entrance that is accessible from the outside. Brendan wearing his black hoodie and gym shorts. Tim with his dead inside shirt and black jeans. Wayne wearing his open hoodie and his normal blue jeans. And Willow with her overcoat and her shorts. They all stepped out of the car, with the opening in the trees now in front of them. The only thing keeping the four from the terrors they would soon experience was an access road that led up to the overpass walkway bridge, which is also the only road in and out of the area. Having been the original back exit to the park, the path of trees was now the only way in and the only way out. On their way into the forest of trees, the group began to notice graffiti and damage to the buildings that made little sense for the place they were in. Amusement was the main purpose of this park. Satanic graffiti, burned pits with remnants of animal remains, broken windows, and serious damage to the buildings littered the side of the path. The weird part about this amusement park is that in the middle, the asphalt is still there, causing the trees to only grow around the park and very little inside the actual area. Tim says that inside the circles of trees, the remnants of Joyland remind him of the destruction left behind by war. The first place they wanted to go was the Wall of Mirrors roller coaster, parts of which were very unstable. While at the top, the four recalled hearing an odd gargling scream coming from the bottom. Thinking to themselves, each one knew someone had to be down at the bottom. They all looked at each other, knowing instantly what they needed to do. With a large inhale, Tim barked out, "Police!" Then, they all waited for a response. Tim, with the deepest voice out of the rest, expected to hear at the very least footsteps running away. The night grew silent. No sound disrupted the pounding hearts that sent at the top of the ride. After what seemed to them about 10 minutes, they finally worked up the courage to go down and check it out. However, still wanting to finish the rest of the ride, they decided to continue on and waste a little bit more time before they had met with whatever that was a horrifying noise. Suddenly, the flapping of wings could be heard. Then, a bat attack hitting Willow and Brennan in their faces.
I'm the one in the back. I guarantee you. Hey, Ouija board.
Oh shit, there's a bat! I accidentally stopped recording. Sorry guys, I accidentally stopped recording. But there's a bat! Holy shit.
Where'd it go?
Goddamn heart attack.
Should we leave?
Is this how you feel whenever I wake you up in the middle of the night?
Yes.
I'm like, holy shit.
I was literally just about to say, let's play the Ouija board in here.
Sam and Colby had the experience with the same bat.
Hey, watch out.
Oh my god, the same bat!
I doubt it was the same bat,
I
dude.
don't know, like, still.
Once the bat hit Brennan's face, it made a quick turn and went back to the way it came. After the laughter died out, with spirits lifted due to the bat attack, they carried on their way. cautious of running to that bat again. The four allowed the recent events to keep their minds off the inevitable end of the ride. After passing even more damage and satanic graffiti, the ground began to dip, indicating the start of the end. Once they stepped past his barrier, there would be only the trip down, keeping them from reaching whatever created the ghastly noise. While standing at the top, Wayne grew an overwhelming suspicion. Are we gonna forget about that bat from earlier? Willow and Tim both spoke up.
That shit was insane.
Laughter once again rose up. That was until they came up with another dip in the floor. The darkness was only slightly broken up by the moonlight that could be barely seen at the bottom of the metallic wooden abyss. Still standing, Tim shouts out once more,
Please.
in hopes of scaring off whatever might be still lurking at the bottom. Once they crept up to the opening of the wall, the brisk wind brushed over their sweat-drenched skin. The switch from the dry heat of the dusty ride house to the cool wind snapped them into awake. The realization that nothing was there made the situation feel so surreal. The night was still, with not a soul in sight. The ground seemed to be just as empty as they first arrived. Relief flushed over them. Whatever was there was nowhere to be seen. From out of nowhere, a metallic dragon sound started throughout the entire park. The group stood still, terrified that whatever made that noise earlier might now be dragging something around. The four members of the group state that the noise sounded like something with chains being dragged against the asphalt. Having been to Joyland before, Wayne and Willow both knew the sound was odd, to say the least. Tim recalls the first thought running through his mind was something was captured, dead or not, chained up and dragged to the burn pit, or possibly even a ritualistic burial site. Terror strikes once again, throughout a 30-minute span since they first arrived. All they could do was look around in fear of what might be coming towards them. A round of sighs broke the silence that almost sounded deafening. Trying to film for YouTube, the four decided to carry on, at least to the wooden coaster, rumored to still be stable enough to stand on the loading bay. When walking up the stairs, the general consensus for the group was how insane the night had been. Between the weird growl and the growing chains, they began to grow worried. Concerned for their lives, they decided to give the coaster a quick look around and headed to the bridge. Once on the loading bay for the coaster, the sight of massive damage, pentagrams or pentacles, the word drag etched into the floor, and even more satanic graffiti littered the coaster's skeletal remains. After a quick look around, the four realized that the dragging sounds of chains again broke the silent night, filling them with fear once more. Armed with older tripods and flashlights, they soon decided would be the best course of action was to charge. Sprinting towards the sound, the group soon noticed what it looked like to be a really odd table. Sitting next to one of the burn pits, once the light from their flashlights hit the table, they noticed it was a human, wearing a brown shirt, purple shorts, and no shoes. The human seemed to be on hands and feet flipped upside down. The heartbeats resonating through the air from everyone in the group. The thought that their hearts beating were too loud almost seemed to be confirmed that with the snap of this creature's head. When I say snap, Tim said he could hear 3 distinct cracks coming from the creature's neck. Another scream. A gargled, human-like scream came from the gaping mouth of the person who just stood there on its table-like posture. The worst part about this thing was his stance. Tim recalls the creature was facing the sky, his arms over his head, his hands facing forward.
Then, it got worse.
Tim says.
With one final scream, still on all fours, the creature sprinted off faster than I could run.
Fear turned into confusion as the creature ran away. There was no longer a question. They had to survive. Newfound adrenaline carried them past the burnt pit, past the Hall of Mirrors coaster, through the walls of trees, past the graffiti, damaged buildings, and out of the access road. At some point during their sprint back to the car, Willow noticed her flip-flop was gone, and a search began. Not daring to go back into the wall of trees, they began looking around the access road. Tim started to walk further down the access road, away from the entrance to the park, and away from the overpass bridge. Far away from their car, in a place none of them had gone close to, the outline of something lighter than black caught Tim's attention. Willow's flip-flop was found far from where she lost it, in the middle of the access road. As if expecting to be found, he grabbed the flip-flop and ran straight to the car, not even turning back once. Now, in the safety of the car, Tim handed Willow her shoe bag. Still a bit shaken up, Tim brought up the fact that they promised to do the Ouija board at least once during the video. Still not wanting to go back into the mouth of the beast that lies just behind the wall of the trees, they decided to go to the bridge, where so many people took their own lives. The city had a fence off the top. Grabbing the Ouija board, more tripods, and a different light, the trek up to the bridge began. The sounds of footsteps on the wooden panels of the bridge were drowned out by the roars of the cars passing underneath. Pulling the board out of the box, Willow was the only one of the group with actual experience with the board. Due to her experience, Willow decided to step back and swore to never touch the board again. Starting off, they began to ask the basic questions.
Is there anyone here?
Were you the thing we saw at the park?
Does anyone want to talk?
The normal things you think you would ask in this situation. After a while of no answers, the four began to ask about the bridge. Why is this bridge closed off?
Did you feel forced to jump?
Did you think it was your time to go?
Still, with no answers. At this point, Tim thought of something that he had heard before.
Do you want to speak to Willow?
An audible groan escaped Willow's mouth as the planchette began to move towards the yes on the board. Immediately, all three of the guys asked the others.
Which one of you
Which
guys
one of you guys moved it?
moved it?
You moved it?
Which one of you guys
did you move
moved
it?
To his surprise, both Wayne and Brendan denied moving the board. Brendan, usually being the one who moves it, would admit it to it, for groups or whatever. Everyone seemed a little more shocked than they should have been. With none of the three ever having a planchette actually move before, the skepticism was still there. After some more questions, and the occasional interruption by bystanders crossing the bridge, the four began to grow worried. With the memory of whatever that creature was that they saw at the park still in their minds, the knowledge of the same man walking back and forth from one side of the bridge to the other creeped them all out. Finally, the man began to walk away, and the four decided they would ask more questions. However, before they can ask anything else, they noticed a car driving down the access road, slowing down as it turned into the road the bridge was attached to. With only one entrance that wasn't closed by the fence. When the car passed this entrance, the four believed the person must have just been lost. That was until the car took a left and turned into the fence of the entrance. Now freaking out, the four began to pack up, saying goodbye to the board. They packed up everything except the camera. With everything in the bag, they ran back into the car, hoping not to run into a cop who might have a key to the fence. As they reached the fence, the four recalled the gate still being locked, with no car other than their own in the parking lot of the school. The four ran back to the car and fled the area, with Tim's camera dying immediately as they drove into the access road. The four decided to never talk about that night ever again. The fear this night brought to them prevented them from coping. Now split up, the four hardly ever talked anymore. We will never know what it was that we truly saw. A car that disappeared with no chance of leaving. A person or creature on all fours running faster than any of the others could. And the screeches that temporarily paralyzed two people who have investigated abandoned hospitals and have performed rituals before. Do you have any idea what this creature could be? Let me know down below. Good night, farewell, and remember, don't get lost in the dark.